It was 9:30, and your patience was hanging thread by a thread. You sat on the couch, legs crossed, fingers drumming against your knee, as your eyes flickered toward the clock once again. Where is he? Jungkook was never the type to ignore you. No matter how late he worked, no matter how busy he got, he always informed you. Whether it was a short text or a one-word call, he always let you know where he was. But tonight, nothing. The living room was silent except for the faint ticking of the clock on the wall. The longer the silence stretched, the heavier it felt, pressing against your chest like a weight you couldn't shake off. You exhaled sharply, sinking further into the couch, trying to convince yourself that maybe, just maybe, you were overthinking. But you knew better. Jungkook was many things, but careless was not one of them. Your husband had always been mysterious, cold, reserved, unreadable. He was a man of few words, speaking only when necessary, never engaging in deep talks, because he didn't like discussing himself, his likes, his dislikes, his emotions. He kept everything locked away behind an impenetrable wall. Yet, despite his distant nature, you had learned in these 7 months of marriage that he cared in his own way. He wouldn't say, "Did you eat?" But you'd find a neatly plated meal on the dining table, covered so it wouldn't get cold. He wouldn't say, "Get some rest," but he'd quietly pull a blanket over you when you fell asleep on the couch. He wouldn't say, "I worry about you," but if you ever got sick, he was always there before you even had to ask, making sure you had your medicine, keeping the room at the right temperature, watching you out of the corner of his eye like a silent guardian. Jungkook was not an affectionate man, not in the way most people would expect. But his love was in the details, in the quiet actions that spoke louder than words. And now, that same man hadn't called, hadn't texted, hadn't come home. Something was wrong. You groaned, pushing off the couch. Enough. If he wasn't going to inform you, you'd find out yourself. Grabbing your phone from the coffee table, you unlocked the screen, fingers hovering over the call button, your lips pressed into a thin line as you debated your next move. Should you call his manager? His secretary? Maybe. But then suddenly you heard a ring. You gasped, startled by the sudden vibration in your hand. Your heart pounded as you looked at the screen. It was his manager. Your stomach twisted. A sinking feeling settled in your gut, making your fingers tremble slightly. You answered the call immediately, pressing the phone to your ear, half expecting to hear Jungkook's deep, composed voice. But instead, "Mrs. Jeon," the voice on the other end made you stop in your tracks. "Yin. Hello, Mr. Lee. What?" Before you could finish, a sudden chuckle echoed through the line, followed by what sounded like someone shuffling around. You heard muffled voices, then a low groan. The atmosphere on the other end seemed far too chaotic for a normal business. Mr. Lee cleared his throat, trying to sound composed. Mrs. Jeon, your husband is totally drunk and asking for you." Your eyes widened in disbelief as you stood frozen in place. "Drunk? You're Jungkook?" Jungkook was not a drinking man. He always avoided alcohol, keeping himself in strict control, never letting himself indulge. You had never even seen him tipsy before. Your heartbeat spiked as your mind raced for an explanation. "Yin, Mr. Lee, wait, how did this even happen?" You gripped the phone tighter. "Is he okay? Why would he drink? Is there something wrong? Is there a work problem?" Your voice carried urgency, knowing full well that Jungkook never showed his stress, not to you. He always acted as if nothing ever fazed him, as if he was a man without worries. If you asked him in the morning why he drank, he'd probably just shrug it off like it was nothing. But to your surprise, Mr. Lee immediately dismissed your worries. No, there's no stress, no pressure. He's fine," he reassured, then let out a sheepish chuckle. "It was just a casual dinner, and we thought we'd offer him a shot. But then, he kept drinking, and drinking, and drinking." You let out a slow breath, trying to process his words. "Yin, he kept drinking ? Mr. Lee, yes, and now he's refusing to take a cab. We're all too drunk to drive, and," he hesitated before adding, "he keeps asking for you." Your heart softened at those words. "He's asking for you?" A strange warmth spread through your chest, something unexplainable. Jungkook wasn't the type to express his emotions easily, but knowing that in his drunken state, the only person he wanted was you, it did something to you. It gave you a quiet sense of acknowledgement, a comfort in knowing that even in his most unguarded moments, you were his home. You didn't hesitate. "Yin, where are you all? Mr. Lee." "Daily Ramayan restaurant near the office, if it's not too much trouble." "Yin, I'm on my way." You had already grabbed your coat and purse before the call even ended, slipping into your shoes. You snatched your car keys from the counter, your movements quick but controlled. Stepping outside, the cold night air greeted you as you unlocked the car and got in. The restaurant wasn't far. If you drove fast, you'd be there in no time. Pressing your lips together, you took a deep breath before starting the engine. Jeon Jungkook, just wait for me. The soft hum of your car engine faded as you pulled up near the restaurant. You tapped the steering wheel, inhaling deeply before turning off the ignition. Grabbing your phone and purse, you unbuckled your seatbelt and stepped out, the crisp night air brushing against your skin. Your mind raced with thoughts. Jungkook never drinks, never. What could have possibly happened? You entered the restaurant hurriedly, your heels clicking against the tiled floor as your eyes scanned the dimly lit space. Conversations buzzed around you, but your focus was elsewhere, your brows furrowed, when you didn't immediately spot him, and just as you were about to take another step. Jungkook, oh, my wife. A loud, drunken voice rang through the restaurant, causing you to freeze mid-step. Heads turned in your direction, murmurs spreading as you felt dozens of eyes on you. Your ears instinctively turned red, your hands clenching around your purse. Oh no, you slowly turned towards the voice, and there he was. Jungkook sat at a table in the farthest corner, surrounded by his colleagues. His usual composed, intimidating presence was nowhere to be seen. His perfectly styled hair was an absolute mess. His suit jacket was hanging loosely off his shoulders, and his tie was missing. His dress shirt was slightly unbuttoned at the top, revealing a glimpse of his collarbone, a sight you rarely ever got to see, considering how prim and proper he always dressed. His dazed eyes met yours. A slow, goofy grin spread across his lips. Jungkook, that's my wife, he announced again, pointing at you like a child showing off a new toy. The chatter around you turned into laughter. Some people chuckled behind their drinks, while others openly stared in amusement. Embarrassment crawled up your spine. You quickly made your way to him. Jungkook's body swayed slightly as he attempted to stand, his fingers clumsily grasping the edge of the table. His team members, also drunk, made no effort to stop him, watching the scene unfold with entertained smiles. Just as he was about to call out for you again, you reached him and placed a firm hand over his mouth. Yin, Jungkook, shh, you whispered, staring down at him. His big, glassy eyes stared up at you. His lips moved under your palm as if trying to say something, but his words were muffled. Mart Lee, his manager, let out a chuckle. Thank God you're here, Mrs. Jeon. Everyone else has almost left or is too drunk to function. You can take your husband home now, you sighed, offering a polite smile before shifting your gaze back to your very intoxicated husband. Jungkook, however, wasn't paying attention to anyone but you. His fingers, warm and slightly shaky, started poking at your stomach. You looked down at him in confusion. Yin, what are you doing? Jungkook, poke, poke. He giggled, his cheeks slightly flushed from the alcohol. It's soft, you sighed, running a hand through his messy hair. Yin, let's go home now, hum. You coaxed softly. To your surprise, he immediately buried his face into your stomach. Your eyes widened. What the? His arms wrapped loosely around your waist as he nuzzled against you like a sleepy kitten, mumbling something incoherent. A laugh threatened to escape your lips, but you held it in, gently rubbing his back instead. Yin, Jungkook, we need to get you up. He shook his head against your stomach. Jungkook, don't wanna. You sighed, bending down slightly, wrapping an arm around his back as you tried to pull him up. His body was heavier than usual, his muscles both tense and relaxed at the same time. Just as you managed to lift him, he suddenly stumbled forward. Jungkook, Yin, he gasped, his arms flailing, but instinctively, you caught him, his weight falling against you, his arms wrapped tightly around your shoulders, and his warm breath laced with alcohol tickled your neck. Yin, I got you, you murmured, adjusting his stance. His head rested against your shoulder now, his entire body pressing into yours as you slowly guided him towards the exit. Jungkook's drunken rambling continued as you started stepping towards the main door. Jungkook, do you know what happened today? He slurred, his voice muffled against your hair. You hummed in response, letting him continue. Jungkook, they tricked me. They said one shot. He paused, lifting his head slightly to look at you. His lips pursed in a pout. But it was not one shot. It was many shots, Yin. You bit your lip to hold back a smile. He's adorable like this. You kept nodding to his rambling until you were at the threshold of the exit. The cool night air brushed against your skin as you stepped out of the restaurant, Jungkook still clinging onto you, his large frame slightly swaying as he let the night breeze hit his flushed face. Your gaze flickered to him, and for a moment, you just watched. He had his eyes closed, lips slightly parted, as if he was savoring the fresh air, and it made your chest tighten. You liked seeing him like this, relaxed, open, entirely yours. But before you could drown in the sight of him, your eyes landed across the street on a CVS store. A thought crossed your mind, a hangover drink. If you didn't get one now, Jungkook would wake up tomorrow groaning like a dying man, complaining about his head, his stomach, and everything in between. You raised your hand, gently cupping his cheek, your fingers brushing against the warmth of his skin. He felt feverish from the alcohol, and his lashes fluttered slightly at your touch. Yin, Jungkook, you called softly, rubbing your thumb just below his eye. Let's go to the car. You wait there while I get you a hangover drink. You waited for his response, fully expecting a lazy nod or a hum. But instead, Jungkook's expression immediately dropped. His lips pushed into a pout, his brows furrowed, and his eyes darkened with sadness. Jungkook, I hate being away from you, he mumbled, his voice slurred but dead serious. You sighed, already sensing where this was going. Yin, hum. You hummed, pretending to consider his words. But how am I supposed to take you there? You knew he was too drunk to even walk straight, let alone cross a street. But before you could suggest another idea, Jungkook suddenly smirked, backing away slightly. He dramatically flexed his arms, showing off his toned muscles like he was some sort of bodybuilder. His coat slipped off his shoulders and fell onto the ground, but he didn't even notice as he proudly displayed his biceps. Jungkook, I'm strong, he declared, his voice confident, his smirk deepening as if this was the greatest argument ever made. You stared at him and sighed, bending down to pick up his coat. Yin, and what does that have to do with walking? Jungkook gasped, clearly offended by your lack of admiration. Jungkook, you don't even love me, he accused, crossing his arms over his chest. I said I want to go with you. I'm not drunk, I'm your big husband. You should take me with you wherever you go. You bit your lip, suppressing a smile, throwing your head back in silent defeat. Here we go. You glanced around. The streets were mostly empty at this hour, only a few cars passing by. You looked at Jungkook, who was now sulking like a child denied his favorite candy. A small smile tugged at your lips, but you quickly wiped it away. If Jungkook saw you laughing, he'd only get more dramatic. Yin, okay, big husband, you finally gave in? Let's go fast and come back. Jungkook's eyes immediately lit up. Jungkook, really? You nodded, already turning to cross the street. Jungkook grinned, lifted his fists in celebration, only to realize you had already started walking. His eyes widened in panic. Jungkook, wait for me, he yelped, stumbling after you with his wobbly legs. That was it. You finally let out a wide smile, a full, genuine one. You didn't want to make him feel like his behavior was ridiculous. But God, he was too adorable like this. Halfway towards the crosswalk, you suddenly heard him whimper. Jungkook, Yin, please hold my hand. I'll fall. You stopped just at the edge of the crosswalk, turning around to see him flailing his arms dramatically, suppressing another laugh. You sighed. Yin, come here. You opened your arms, and Jungkook immediately lunged forward, wrapping both arms around your shoulders. His full weight almost knocked you over, but you steadied yourself, gripping him tightly. Yin, happy now, you muttered, adjusting his hold on you. Jungkook hummed happily, but then, he started swaying on purpose. Left, right, his entire body weight leaned against you in exaggerated motions, and you could feel his smirk against your temple. Yin, Jungkook, stop, you warned, trying to steady him. We have to cross. Before you could finish, he asked. Jungkook, you love me. His voice was soft, almost teasing, but there was something undeniably vulnerable about the way he said it. You sighed, but not out of frustration. Instead, a rare sense of warmth filled your chest, because these were the moments you never wanted to forget. Jungkook like this, unfiltered, unguarded, showing you his softest side. You knew he'd regret every word of this in the morning, groaning about his drunk self exposing his feelings so easily. But right now, he was here. He was holding on to you like you were the only thing keeping him steady. So, you decided to let him have it. Yin, yes, Jungkook, I do love you. The words left your lips effortlessly, naturally. Jungkook stilled. Then, he smiled, and before you could process it, he leaned in and pecked your cheek. Soft, quick, warm. Your breath hitched, your legs went weak, a single kiss, and yet your heart was racing like you had just run miles. You wanted to stop, just for a second, just to catch your breath, just to let yourself feel this moment. But you couldn't. You were still in the middle of the road, and Jungkook was still clinging to you like an oversized baby. So, you forced yourself to keep walking, acting like nothing happened, except Jungkook wasn't done. His lips parted, and his next words sent heat rushing through your entire body. Jungkook, I love you too, Yin. You almost stumbled. Your grip on his wrist tightened as your stomach flipped. But then, Jungkook, but I love my wife too. You suddenly froze mid-step. Your head snapped toward him. What? Jungkook, completely oblivious to your confusion, continued walking beside you like he had just said the most normal thing in the world. But your brows furrowed. Yin, excuse me. He blinked at you, looking genuinely innocent. Jungkook, I said I love my wife too. Your mouth suddenly opened, then closed. Then, you smirked. Two can play this game. Yin, alright then. Jungkook, you said smoothly, tilting your head at him. Choose one, me or your wife. Jungkook didn't even hesitate before speaking. Jungkook, obviously my wife, you scoffed. But before you could tease him about it, he suddenly leaned in, whispering against your ear. Jungkook, but don't worry, I'll tell her that I love you too. Your body heated up, your fingers twitched at your side as you turned to look at him, your eyes full of amused disbelief. Yin, Jungkook, you dragged his name, warningly. Your wife won't be angry that you love another woman. She'll definitely kick you out. Jungkook's lips curled into a slow, mischievous smirk. Jungkook, nope, your brow raised. Yin, oh, and why not? He leaned closer, his nose barely brushing against your temple. Jungkook, because you are my wife. Your mouth fell open in disbelief. That was the lamest joke you had ever heard. For a moment, you just stared at him, expecting him to burst out laughing and admit he was messing with you. But no, Jungkook was grinning like he had just delivered the smoothest, most romantic line in history. But the words were so simple, yet so heavy. Your fingers curled into the fabric of your coat, fighting the urge to shove him away just so you could recover. Jungkook grinned, fully enjoying your reaction. He straightened up, then casually slung an arm around your shoulders, pulling you closer as if you weren't already walking side by side. Jungkook, that was smooth, wasn't it? He smirked, wiggling his eyebrows. You rolled your eyes, pushing his arm off you. Yin, now, stay here until I buy your drink. Jungkook pouted like a kid caught stealing candy. Jungkook, but I want to go with you. He blinked at you, clearly debating whether to argue, but the serious look on your face made him sigh dramatically before plopping down on a chair outside the store. Jungkook, fine. He started tapping his fingers against the table, his legs swinging slightly as if he couldn't sit still. You sighed, kneeling slightly to adjust his coat properly over his shoulders, smoothing out his hair as he blinked up at you with those big, drunk, puppy-like eyes. Yin, I'll come back in a minute, hum. You softened your voice, tucking a strand of his hair behind his ear. Jungkook nodded, his lips curving into a small, adorable smile. Jungkook, okay, but hurry. You chuckled, shaking your head before turning to head inside the store, unaware of how Jungkook's gaze never left you even as you walked away. Jungkook let out a dramatic sigh, slumping back against the chair like a kid who had just been told to wait while his mom went shopping. 1 second. 2 seconds. By the third second, he was already restless. His lips puffed out in a childish sulk as he watched you scanning the shelves, completely focused on finding his drink. He tilted his head, thinking, should he behave and wait like you told him to? Nah, a mischievous glint sparked in his eyes. Should he just go inside and tease you a little? Maybe sneak up behind you and whisper something to make you jump? But before he could even push himself up from the chair, something small brushed against his ankle. Jungkook blinked, his brows frowned while looking down, only to find a tiny fluffy cat rubbing itself against his leg, its tail curling around his shin. His heart immediately melted. Jungkook, oh, hey there, little guy. The cat let out a soft meow, its big round eyes staring up at him. Jungkook grinned and crouched down, scooping it up in his hands. The small creature fit perfectly in his palms, its fur soft against his skin. Then suddenly, it licked his nose. Jungkook, Jungkook let out a small laugh, scrunching his face in surprise. That tickles. He placed the cat on the table in front of him, gently scratching behind its ears. The cat purred in response, rubbing its tiny head against his hand. Jungkook chuckled, completely enchanted. He was so focused on the cat, he didn't even hear you approaching. Yin, oh my, so cute. Jungkook's eyes lit up instantly. His heart skipped at the sound of your voice. He immediately straightened up, flashing you a proud grin, expecting you to swoon over him, expecting your gaze to land on him, waiting for you to fawn over how adorable he looked with the cat. But instead, you walked right past him. Jungkook blinked. Instead of looking at him, you reached for the cat. Yin. Aw, look at you. You cooed, scooping up the small creature and cuddling it against your chest. So tiny and soft. Such a pretty baby, aren't you? Jungkook's smile faded as you took the cat from the table and settled into the seat across from him, giving it all your attention. His lips parted in disbelief. You completely ignored him. Jungkook sat there, frozen, as you cradled the cat in your arms. Then, it licked your cheek. His pout deepened as you stroked the cat's fur lovingly, whispering soft praises. He watched in disbelief as the cat purred, clearly enjoying all your affection. Jungkook's eye twitched. This was not fair. You were supposed to be petting him, not this random street cat. His jealousy only grew as the cat rubbed its head against your cheek, and you giggled, completely smitten. Jungkook clenched his fists, huffing loudly, but you didn't even glance at him. He wasn't sure if it was jealousy or betrayal boiling inside him, maybe both. His glare hardened as he stared at the cat, the enemy. He had never wanted to be a cat so badly in his life. With a sulky pout, Jungkook stomped his foot. Jungkook, Yin. Let's go home. You didn't even look up. His nostrils flared. Yin, still nothing. You just kept stroking the cat. That was it. That was the last straw. With determined jealousy, Jungkook suddenly snatched the cat right out of your arms. Your eyes widened. Yin, Jungkook, what are you? Before you could even react, Jungkook turned and marched away, carrying the cat far, far away. You watched in stunned silence as he carefully placed the cat down near a small bush, giving it a final glance before dusting off his hands like he had just finished an important mission. Then, he turned back, walking towards you with a victorious glare. Your lips twitched. Yin, did you just throw away the cat? You asked, amusement laced in your voice. Jungkook crossed his arms and sat right beside you, still pouting. Jungkook, it was stealing my wife's attention. You let out a small laugh. Yin, you're so dramatic. Ignoring his sulking, you grabbed the bag and pulled out a can of his hangover drink. Yin, here. But Jungkook still didn't move. His arms stayed folded, his brows still furrowed. He was glaring at you like you had personally betrayed him. You sighed with your eyes and stepped closer, bringing the can up to his lips. Yin, come on, drink it. But Jungkook didn't budge. Your lips pressed together as you studied his face, his pout, his stubborn glare, the slight furrow in his brows. He was waiting for more. You sighed again, softening your gaze. Yin, Jungkook, you murmured, reaching up. Your fingers brushed against his jaw before gently cupping his chin. Jungkook froze. Your thumb grazed his skin as you tilted his face slightly, encouraging him. Yin, drink it. His breath hitched. For a second, he forgot how to function. Your hand was so warm. The way you softly stroked his chin, the way your voice coaxed him so gently. Jungkook's heart thumped painfully in his chest. His pout melted away. His glare softened. Slowly, he parted his lips. You tilted the can, letting the cool liquid pour into his mouth. Jungkook suddenly closed his eyes as he drank, his Adam's apple bobbing. His lips glistened, wet from the juice, the muscles in his throat flexing with each gulp. Your stomach suddenly flipped, and for some reason, your gaze was glued to him. You were just holding the can, but it suddenly felt so intimate. Your mind completely blanked as you realized just how close he was. How would it feel to kiss him right now? Before you could even process that thought, Jungkook's eyes suddenly snapped open. He turned his head slightly, catching you staring. Your breath hitched. Jungkook didn't say anything. He just blinked slowly, his lips still wrapped around the can. Then, he tilted his head up slightly. Jungkook, it's finished, he murmured. Your eyes widened as you suddenly realized you were still holding the can against his lips. Shit, you quickly pulled it away, clearing your throat. Yin, let's go now, hum. Before he could say anything, you grabbed his hand and started dragging him toward the car. Jungkook followed, but in his mind, one thing was clear. One thought repeated over and over again. He wanted you to love him like that damn cat. He wanted your hands on him again. He wanted your pats, your soft voice, your undivided attention, and he has already made up his mind that he was going to get it anyhow. The ride to the house wasn't quite what you expected. After the drink, you thought Jungkook would be back to his usual self, but instead, his behavior was becoming more and more unusual by each passing second, and you couldn't figure out what was going on in his head. His actions, like an untrained cat, were slowly becoming more clingy, needy, and erratic, leaving you to wonder if the alcohol was messing with his mind. Your hand was still intertwined with his, but it was hard to focus on driving with the way he kept rubbing his cheek against your palm, like a cat nuzzling for affection. His warm, soft skin was sending shivers down your spine, but you had to keep your focus on the road, so you gripped the steering wheel with your other hand. When you glanced over at him, his eyes were closed, and his head tilted slightly as if savoring something. His breath was even, his body relaxed, but there was an intensity in his expression, like he was trying to hold on to something, to control a feeling. You knew you had to change gears now, so you tried to gently pull your hand away from his, but the moment you moved, Jungkook's face suddenly twisted into a frown, and he groaned softly, his eyes fluttering open. "Jungkook, hey," he whined in a low voice, his tone thick with frustration, almost like a child who had been deprived of attention. Before you could react, he suddenly leaned in, and with a surprising burst of force, he sank his teeth into your wrist. It wasn't hard enough to hurt, but the sharpness of the bite sent a shockwave through your body. Jungkook, I'm driving," your voice broke, the breath hitching in your chest. You tried to pull your wrist away, but instead of releasing you, he slowly began to lick the spot where he had bitten you. The heat of his tongue made your entire body stiffen, your mind going blank for a moment as goosebumps spread across your skin. His tongue traced over the tender area, gentle but firm, making your pulse quicken, your chest tightened. You were struggling to keep your focus on the road, but every time his tongue flicked over your wrist, the sensation flooded through you, taking your attention away from everything else. The contrast of the cool air in the car and the warmth of his tongue was overwhelming. Your throat tightened, your heart racing as you felt that strange tingle spread up your arm, spreading into your chest. You couldn't focus on anything but his touch. Suddenly you jerked your wrist away, breathing heavily. "Jungkook, don't disturb me," you muttered, but your voice came out shaky, betraying the flutter you were feeling. His pout deepened as he stared at you. His eyes narrowed in what looked like a mix of frustration and longing. It was as if he couldn't understand why you had pulled away, why you weren't giving him the attention he wanted. He watched as you rubbed the wet spot on your wrist, still feeling the lingering warmth of his touch. But before you could gather your thoughts, he leaned forward again, his face suddenly so close to yours that his breath brushed against your skin. You could feel the warmth of his body, the subtle scent of his cologne mixed with the alcohol that was making his actions even more unpredictable. Then, without warning, he nuzzled into your neck, his nose grazing your skin. The sensation was almost electric, and your breath hitched in your chest as you struggled to keep the car steady. His face pressed against your shoulder, his cheek warm against your skin. You couldn't think, couldn't breathe properly. As his body moved closer, his hands now softly trailing along your side, you tried to shake the growing tension in your body, reminding yourself that he was drunk, that his behavior wasn't real, but it felt too intimate, too much. His nose brushed the side of your neck, sniffing gently as if memorizing the scent of your skin. His breath was hot against you, and every time he moved closer, your body tensed. "Jungkook," you whispered, your voice soft, almost pleading. You knew you needed to stay in control, but your mind was racing. What was happening? This wasn't normal. He wasn't normal. Without warning, he kissed your neck, a soft, lingering press of his lips against your skin. His breath was uneven, heavy, as if he couldn't get enough of you. Your heart skipped a beat at the sensation. You were trying to fight it, to pull away, but his arms were moving around you, finding their way to your back, pulling you closer. He wanted to be closer. It was obvious now. Your breath caught as his lips moved over your skin again, this time lingering longer. It wasn't just a kiss. He was pressing into you, as if he was trying to claim you, to show you that he needed you. The car ride felt like it stretched on forever. With every passing second, Jungkook's touch grew more possessive, more urgent. He kept snuggling into your neck, his face buried in the crook of your shoulder as his hands moved lower, caressing your sides. Every part of your body was hyper-aware of him. When you finally pulled into the driveway, you felt a sense of relief, but as you stopped the car, Jungkook didn't seem to want to let go. Jungkook's breathing was slow now, almost like he had fallen asleep against you, his body still pressed against yours. The long drive had left you feeling drained, your muscles aching from the tension of trying to manage Jungkook's increasingly strange behavior. You thought once the drink was over, he would settle down, but it seemed the alcohol had only intensified whatever was happening inside him. He had started to act weirder, more clingy, more needy, and now his actions were almost impossible to ignore. When you turned off the engine, you looked over at him. It was as though he'd already drifted into some kind of dream state. You let out a sigh, shifting your body, trying to peel away from him, but as soon as you moved, his body seemed to react, like he wasn't ready to let you go. His head shifted, and before you could unbuckle your seatbelt, his hand shot out and grasped yours, holding onto you firmly. You froze, your heart skipping a beat. His grip was tight, almost desperate, and it made your chest tighten with something. "Yin, we need to get out," you whispered, but as soon as your hand moved to open the door, you felt his body shift again. He lifted his head slightly, just enough to look at you, his expression blank, yet somehow needy. Without warning, Jungkook groaned in frustration as you moved to get out of the car. His body seemed to slump with disappointment, and then, as if something inside him snapped, he let out the softest, almost imperceptible meow. You blinked, your eyebrows furrowing in confusion. Was he purring? You immediately turned back to him, your eyes widening in disbelief. Jungkook was still leaning against your seat, his body a little slumped, but his face was scrunched up in a pout, his lips forming that strange sound again, meow. The sound was so out of place, so completely unpredictable, that you couldn't help but chuckle. You tried to stifle the laughter, but it spilled out anyway, a genuine burst of amusement. Jungkook's head tilted in confusion, as though he couldn't understand why you were laughing, but the pout on his face deepened. He looked at you, then at the space beside you where you had been sitting. "Yin, Jungkook," you called out softly, still trying to control your laughter. And without missing a beat, he let out another meow. Your smile only widened, and you couldn't help but laugh again. The absurdity of it all was too much. "Yin, Jungkook, stop it," you managed between laughs. "Get out of the car." Jungkook didn't move though. He stayed there, his pout deepening, looking at you with those big doe eyes, completely innocent and completely confused by your reaction. He was almost like a pet, waiting for your attention. You closed the door in an attempt to end the moment, but before you could take another step, you heard his voice again. He wasn't letting you go that easily. Jungkook opened the door and followed you out, dragging his feet slightly as he moved behind you. You could feel his presence just a few inches away, like a shadow, his footsteps slow but deliberate. Each one was heavy, as if he wasn't fully sure of his own movements. You couldn't help but look back over your shoulder. Jungkook was walking behind you, his eyes fixed on you. The moment your gaze met his, he pouted again and let out a soft, almost shy meow. This time, it was more deliberate, as if he wanted your attention, but there was a vulnerability in it. His face had a strange mixture of childlike innocence and the needy, clingy side you had seen earlier. It made your heart soften. You sighed, shaking your head in disbelief as Jungkook continued trailing behind you, his soft meow filling the quiet hallway. Every few steps, he would let out another purr, his voice low and lazy, like he was completely lost in whatever was going on inside his drunken mind. It was ridiculous, but at the same time, strangely adorable. You tried to ignore him because your heart couldn't handle the load of his cutness, but the way he kept following so closely, his footsteps barely making a sound, his presence lingering just behind you, made it impossible to pretend like nothing was happening. Then, without warning, Jungkook suddenly lunged forward and wrapped his arms around you from behind. Your breath hitched, his strong arms circled around your shoulders, pulling you against him in a gentle hold. His body was warm, so warm that you could feel it seeping through your clothes. His cheek pressed against your shoulder, and before you could even react, he nuzzled into you. Your eyes widened. "Yin, Jungkook," you yelped, feeling his nose brushing against the side of your neck. Yet again, instead of answering, he let out another deep, satisfied purr, his lips parting slightly as he exhaled against your skin. The soft vibration of his voice sent an unexpected shiver down your spine. His grip tightened, holding you even closer as he rubbed his face against your shoulder like a needy kitten. "Meow," he murmured sleepily, his voice dripping with warmth. A laugh burst from your lips before you could stop it. "Yin, I swear, you're gonna regret this in the morning," you teased, trying to pry his arms off you. But Jungkook only purred in response. You turned your head slightly, trying to catch a glimpse of his face, but all you saw was his messy dark hair, and the way his eyes were half-lidded, completely relaxed, like he was in a dream. He looked too comfortable, too satisfied. "Yin, come on, let go," you tried again. wiggling in his grasp. "We need to sleep." As soon as you both stepped into the bedroom, Jungkook didn't waste a second. With a tired groan, he jumped onto the bed, landing on his back with his arms sprawled out. His legs dangled off the edge slightly, but he didn't seem to care. A deep sigh left his lips as he sank into the mattress, completely drained from the long day. You stood near the door, watching him with an exhausted expression. You had sighed so many times tonight that you lost count. You silently walked to the bed and sat beside him, rubbing your forehead. Your muscles ached from carrying his around. You leaned back slightly, letting your eyes shut for a brief second. But then, a small sound caught your attention. Your brows knitted together in confusion. Slowly, you opened your eyes, only to find Jungkook absent-mindedly running his fingers over his lips. His fingers moved lazily up his arms in slow, absent-minded barely above a whisper, as if lost in thought. He rubbed his palm over his face, his head tilting slightly in a way that oddly resembled a cat grooming itself. The sight was so unexpected that you couldn't hold it in. A sudden burst of laughter escaped your lips, your body shaking as you leaned forward, clutching your stomach. Your head fell back as laughter poured out uncontrollably, your amusement echoing through the room. Jungkook froze, his tongue stopped mid-action. His hand was still on his arm, his gaze slowly shifting toward you. His lips pressed together, and his eyes narrowed. With a swift motion, he sat up, staring at you with mock anger. You tried to hold back your laughter, your hand covering over your mouth. But the way he pouted, his nose scrunching slightly, only made it harder to contain. He looked adorably furious, but before you could react, he lunged forward, his hands shot out, gripping your wrists tightly, his sudden movement catching you completely off guard. Your laughter died instantly, your eyes going wide. A smirk tugged at Jungkook's lips. Closer, his eyes holding an unreadable expression. And then, his tongue, warm, wet, soft, it lingered along your jawline, sending an unexpected shockwave through your body. Your breath hitched, your fingers curled into the bedsheets as your body froze in place. Jeon Jungkook, your voice came out weak, barely more than a breathless whisper. But he didn't stop. His slow, deliberate slurps moved along your cheek, his lips barely brushing against your skin between each motion. The sensation was unexpected, a mix of warmth and softness that sent a shiver down your spine. Your body stiffened in surprise, your fingers gripping the bedsheet as you tried to process what was happening. Jungkook, you tried to speak, but he held your wrists gently, his playful persistence keeping you in place. "Meow," he muttered, his breath tickling your skin as he brushed his lips near your ear. A startled gasp left your lips, your eyes squeezing shut at the strange feeling. A soft shiver ran down your spine, and before you even realized it, your head tilted slightly to the side, caught off guard by the unexpected sensation. Jungkook let out a quiet hum of amusement, his lips curving into a small smile. His playful gestures turned gentler, his nose brushing against your skin before he pressed a feather-light nibble against the same spot. The soft, fleeting sensation sent an unfamiliar flutter through your stomach, leaving you momentarily frozen in place. His hot breath tickled your skin as he hovered, his lips just inches away from yours. The sensation was overwhelming, a slow burn creeping through your veins, and just when you thought you would completely lose yourself in it, reality hit you. No, you couldn't do this. Not like this. Not when he was drunk, lost in his own world. With a sharp breath, you snapped back to your senses. Your hands shot up, cupping his face firmly, stopping all his movements. His lips lingered near your cheek, his breath warm against your skin. His heavy-lidded eyes blinked at you, completely dazed. His breath was slow and uneven. Jungkook, your voice was softer this time, almost hesitant. His lashes fluttered. Sleep was pulling at him, exhaustion clear in his hooded gaze. His grip loosened, his body swayed forward, his weight pressing against you, and before you could react, his head dropped gently against your chest. A soft gasp left your lips as his full weight collapsed onto you, his arms going limp. A deep, content sigh escaped him. Your breath caught for a moment as he rested against you, completely at ease. You let out a shaky exhale, gently wiping away the dampness on his chin before running your fingers through his hair, smoothing down the soft strands. His breathing slowed, steady and relaxed, his warmth seeping into you as sleep took over him, his body completely melting into yours. You could hear your own heartbeat pounding in your ears, but you kept your movements gentle, your fingers threading through his hair as you rubbed slow circles near his ear. And just like that, within seconds, his body went limp. He was deep asleep, You should push him off and tuck him into bed properly. But something about this, the warmth of his body against yours, the slow, steady rhythm of his breathing, made it impossible to let go. You found yourself slowly drifting off too, your hands still tangled in his hair as your eyelids grew heavy. And just like that, you both fell asleep, wrapped in each other's warmth, with the scent of him surrounding you. The golden morning sun shone brightly through the slightly parted curtains, casting warm, soft rays into the room. Dust particles danced in the air, illuminated by the sunlight, creating a peaceful atmosphere. The faint chirping of birds outside mixed with the gentle rustling of the curtains, making everything feel calm and serene. But despite the tranquility of the morning, your mind was far from calm. You were already awake. The night had been long, filled with moments that replayed in your mind like a never-ending loop. Now, freshly bathed, you sat at your dressing table, gently patting your skin with your fingertips as you finished your morning skincare routine. The cool sensation of the products against your skin felt refreshing, but your thoughts kept drifting. Your eyes flickered to the mirror. There, sprawled across the bed, was Jungkook. His body was tangled in the sheets, his bare arms and shoulders peeking out. His hair was an absolute mess, dark locks sticking out in every direction, evidence of his restless movements during sleep. His lips were slightly parted, his breathing deep and even, completely lost in slumber. You bit your lower lip, your fingers, pausing mid-motion as a soft chuckle escaped you. Your mind kept replaying everything from last night, the way he had licked his own hands, purred like a cat, clung to you like a needy kitten. God, you shook your head, amusement flickering in your gaze as you covered your mouth to suppress another laugh. But just as you started getting lost in your thoughts again, a low groan rumbled from the bed. Your body stiffened slightly as you turned your head towards him. Jungkook stirred. A deep sigh left his lips as he shifted, his fingers twitching slightly before slowly running through his messy hair, his brows furrowed, his body stretching lazily under the sheets. Before he let out another soft grunt, you leaned forward, resting your chin on your palm, watching him with mild curiosity. And then, he finally sat up, his dark, sleepy eyes blinked a few times, adjusting to the bright sunlight, before they slowly trailed toward you. Your lips curled into a teasing smirk. Yin, good morning, Jungkook. For a second, he didn't respond. His gaze met yours, and then immediately dropped to the floor, his usual reserved demeanor snapping back into place. Jungkook, morning Yin, he mumbled, his voice raspy, still thick with sleep. You observed him as he rubbed his temples, exhaling deeply, clearly trying to fight off the dull ache in his head. He finally looked up at you again, brows knitting together. Jungkook, I must have drunk a lot yesterday, he murmured, mostly to himself, his fingers running through his hair in frustration. You hummed softly, suppressing the amused smile tugging at your lips. Leaning back on your hands, you tilted your head, watching him with an unreadable expression. Jungkook sighed again, rubbing the back of his neck. Jungkook, I should take a bath, he muttered, pushing himself up to stand. But just as he turned slightly, his gaze landed on your neck, and he suddenly froze. His entire body stiffened. His sleepy expression was wiped clean in an instant, his pupils dilating slightly as his lips parted. There, on your soft, exposed skin, were faint, reddish bite marks. His breath hitched, his fingers twitched as his throat ran dry. He stared, his heartbeat picking up speed. The small visible marks looked exactly like bite imprints, like someone had marked you. Like he had marked you. Jungkook gulped, his Adam's apple bobbing as his hands curled into fists. Slowly, hesitantly, his gaze lifted from your marked neck to your face. But your expression was unreadable. Your eyes were unnervingly calm, too calm. A chill ran down his spine. And then, it hit him. Everything came crashing back. The licking, the purring, the way he nuzzled into your chest like a damn kitten. Jungkook's soul left his body. A violent shudder ran through him. The memory of him licking you, clinging to you, purring into your neck like a desperate little cat. Oh, my God. His ears and neck turned bright red. His stomach dropped as an unbearable wave of cringe and humiliation crashed into him. His entire being screamed for him to disappear. Jungkook stiffened, his body locked up, frozen with embarrassment. He needed to leave, now. Jungkook, I should take a bath, he stammered, his voice slightly strained. He hurriedly got up, his movements panicked, as if running away would somehow erase the memories of last night. But just as he was about to escape, you got up. Your hand shot out, your fingers wrapped firmly around his wrist. Before he could react, before he could process, You yanked him back on the bed. He stumbled slightly, blinking in shock, and the next thing he knew was that you were on top of him. Your weight pinned him back against the bed, your body straddling his, leaving zero room for escape. Jungkook's breath hitched. His wide, startled eyes stared up at you, his chest rising and falling unevenly. His mind screamed at him to move, to push you away, but he couldn't, because at that moment, you tilted your head, letting your hair fall to one side, exposing your marked neck to him, letting him see exactly what he had done. Jungkook's gaze followed the movement, his lips parting slightly in pure shock and disbelief. He swallowed hard, his breathing grew shallow, his body heating up under you. Shit. His fingers twitched, his stomach twisting into knots. Jungkook's heart raced, pounding so loudly he thought it might echo throughout the room. The heat from your body seeped into his skin, making him feel alive, but also making him feel like he might just lose control. You were above him now, your body pressing into his in a way that sent waves of nervous energy coursing through him. He felt frozen in place, unable to do anything but stare at you. Heat rushed through his body, spreading from the pit of his stomach to the tips of his fingers. His throat ran dry, his breaths coming out in short, shallow puffs. As your body pressed firmly against his, you looked down at him, your gaze intense, watching every small shift in his expression, every tiny twitch in his body, as he tried, unsuccessfully, to maintain some semblance of composure. You leaned in closer, your lips curling into a soft smirk. Yin. Nervous? Your voice was low, smooth, and teasing. Jungkook blinked rapidly, trying to focus, but it was almost impossible with the way your body was pressed so intimately against his. He could only gulp, feeling a flush spread over his face, his chest tight with a mixture of excitement and shame. You could see it, the way his eyes flickered with hesitation, the subtle tightening of his jaw as he fought to keep his composure. You smirked even more, leaning in just a little closer to him, watching as his face turned even redder, the heat rushing to his neck. Yin, you should know how I felt when you were acting like this yesterday, you whispered, your voice smooth as silk. Jungkook's stomach flipped, his shoulders tensed, the memory flashed in his head, and his body cringed so hard he wanted to disappear. He looked down quickly, too embarrassed to meet your eyes. Jungkook. Yin. His voice was hoarse, barely audible. I'm sorry. Your smirk softened slightly as you saw the genuine guilt in his expression. But you weren't going to let him off that easily. You raised an eyebrow, moving a little closer, enough to feel his breath against your skin. Yin. Sorry for what, Mr. Jungkook? His fingers dug into the sheets beneath him as he looked up at you, his eyes wide and uncertain. He clearly didn't know how to explain himself. How could he? He swallowed thickly, his throat tight, and his voice cracked slightly as he muttered, Jungkook, for making you uncomfortable. You froze, your eyes narrowing slightly in confusion. Uncomfortable? You had never felt uncomfortable, not once. Amused? Yes. Intrigued? Absolutely. But uncomfortable? No. You tilted your head, lips still in a teasing curve. As you leaned in closer, your hand gently cupping his jaw, forcing him to look at you. Yin. Jungkook, you said softly, your voice almost a whisper. Why would I be uncomfortable? His face reddened even more, and you could feel the guilt radiating off of him in waves. His breathing quickened, and his body tensed beneath you, as if he wanted to escape but didn't know how. He tried to speak again, his voice cracking as he continued. Jungkook, I must have startled you. You shook your head, smiling just a little bit as you leaned down closer. Yin. No. Jungkook, you murmured, your lips barely brushing his ear. I was never uncomfortable. He bit his lip, but his eyes still showed that deep regret. His chest heaved with every breath, and he seemed almost ashamed of himself. Jungkook, I'm sorry, Yin. He breathed out again, the guilt heavy in his words. It's my fault. I should have told you where I was going. I shouldn't have acted like that. I started acting like that all of a sudden. It must have been weird for you. I don't even know what got into me. Enough. Your patience snapped. You didn't let him speak more. You couldn't. You silenced him, not with your hands, but with your lips. Jungkook's entire body froze. His eyes shot open wide. Your kiss was soft at first, just a simple press of your lips against his, but it was enough to send a jolt of electricity through his entire body. His eyes went wide, the shock of the kiss making him freeze. But then, as if by instinct, his hands reached up, his fingers trembling slightly, brushing against your shoulders and pulling you closer. The kiss deepened, and with it, his emotions, everything he had been holding back came rushing to the surface in that one kiss. His lips moved against yours with intensity, urgency, like he couldn't get enough of you. He pulled you closer, his hands gripping your shoulders. As he tried to match your rhythm, the kiss became frantic, desperate, and then, it broke. You pulled away from him, gasping for air, your heart pounding in your chest. The room was still charged with the tension from the kiss, and the heat between you two had only intensified. You opened your eyes to find Jungkook still lying there, his lips parted, his breathing unsteady, his eyes were closed, and for a moment, he looked completely lost in the aftermath of the kiss. But you weren't done with him yet. The words came from you without hesitation, something you had kept inside for so long, and now, it was out in the open. Yin, I love you. The silence that followed felt like an eternity. Jungkook blinked, his eyes wide, as if the words hadn't fully registered in his brain. His face flushed, a mix of confusion, surprise, and something deeper that he couldn't put into words. He blinked, frozen, like he didn't know how to respond. But his heart was already pounding harder, and you could feel it against your own chest as you stayed close. His gaze dropped to the bed for a second, like he was looking for the words, but none came. He opened his mouth, but the words never made it out. Instead, before you could speak again, he wrapped his arms around you, pulling you into a hug so tight you almost gasped. His chest was firm against you, but it was his heart you could feel pounding beneath your ear. The world around you seemed to disappear as his hands found your face, cradling you like you were something precious, something fragile. One hand was placed securely around your back, pulling you closer, as if he never wanted to let go. His other hand, still cupping your face, tilted your head up slightly so he could look into your eyes. I love you too, Yin. Jungkook's voice was thick, vulnerable, and something in his tone made you realize just how much this moment meant to him. He wasn't just saying it, he felt it. You could hear the emotion raw in his voice, and you saw it in his eyes. His heartbeat, now frantic, was like a constant reminder of the confession that had just slipped out. There was a quiet pause, the only sound being your breaths mingling together. And then he spoke again. His voice trembled, unsure, and that vulnerability in him hit you harder than anything else. Jungkook, I know I'm hard sometimes. No, not sometimes, always, he said softly, as if trying to explain the part of him that he hated. Jungkook, it's not how I want to be. I want to be free with you, to let go, but this is how I am. I've never been good with words. I didn't know how to tell you. I never knew how to open up. How could you love me when I can't even talk to you the way I want to? His voice trailed off, and you saw the hurt in his eyes, the self-doubt that clouded his every thought. It was almost like he was apologizing for not being perfect, for being so guarded. You could feel his guilt, but you weren't going to let him drown in it. You pulled back slightly, just enough to meet his gaze, your hands reaching to gently flick his forehead, a playful gesture to snap him out of it. Yin, Jungkook, you said softly, your voice firm, but gentle, grounding him. Yin, you are perfect the way you are. I love you just as you are. You don't need to change for me. You don't need to be talkative, and you don't need to act any different. I love the way you show your care through your actions. I love how you always try, even when you're quiet. You don't have to be someone else. Jungkook, as long as you love me, that's all that matters to me. The weight of your words settled over him, and his eyes softened, the self-doubt starting to fade away. You could see how much they meant to him, and his shoulders relaxed, if only just a little. He let out a long breath, and before he could say anything else, the words came tumbling out, rushed and full of sincerity. Jungkook, I do love you. I love you so much. The intensity in his voice made your heart flutter. There was no hesitation now, no uncertainty. He was sure of it, and you couldn't help but smile, a soft laugh slipping past your lips. You leaned back just enough to tease him, the mischievous spark in your eyes giving away what was coming next. Yin, Jungkook, say meow. His face immediately flushed a deep crimson. The embarrassment washed over him like a tidal wave, and he shifted, trying to pull away, desperate to escape the situation. His voice wavered, his cheeks burning with the effort to deny you. Jungkook, Yin, please, he groaned, almost as if begging for you to stop. He was beyond embarrassed, and you couldn't help but relish the moment. But you weren't letting him off the hook that easily. You leaned in, your voice low, teasing, Yin, baby, just one time. The way you said baby made his heart skip a beat, and in that moment, all his resistance crumbled. He wasn't sure what it was, Maybe the way your eyes sparkled when you said it, or the way your voice dropped so sweetly. But whatever it was, it made him want to give you anything you asked for. He sighed deeply, closing his eyes for a brief moment before his lips parted, barely able to speak. Jungkook, meow. The moment those words escaped his lips, you burst into laughter. The sound was so genuine, so carefree, that it filled the room with a warmth that couldn't be ignored. Your head fell back, and the laughter bubbled up from deep inside you, ringing through the room. You didn't hold back, letting the joy of the moment carry you. Jungkook stared at you, his face still flushed, but this time there was something different in his expression. He wasn't embarrassed anymore. Instead, he was mesmerized. Your laugh, so light, so free, was like music to him. He couldn't help but watch, completely captivated. The sound was infectious, and as you laughed, he found himself smiling softly. There was something about you, something about the way you were so comfortable, so at ease in this moment, that made everything feel right. He wasn't bothered by his own embarrassment anymore. All he could think about was how amazing it felt to see you happy. You stopped laughing eventually, wiping a tear from your eye, and when your gaze met his, you saw it, the soft, tender look in his eyes. His smile was genuine, his body completely relaxed for the first time in what felt like forever. Jungkook leaned in slightly, his voice quiet but sincere. Jungkook, I love you, Yin. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't a statement that needed to be said to fill the silence. It was a promise, a deep, undeniable truth that he held in his heart, and you could see it in his eyes. He meant it, fully and completely, and in that moment, you realized you felt the same way. Despite all the barriers, despite everything that had happened, you knew one thing for sure: you were right where you needed to be, together.